Imagine discovering a hidden treasure map within the pages of Scripture, one that doesn't lead to gold or jewels, but to something far more valuable, the blueprint for navigating the turbulent waters of modern existence with unshakable strength and profound joy. What if I told you that a single chapter in the Bible holds the master key to unlocking resilience in your relationships, finding serenity amidst chaos, and standing firm against the invisible currents that seek to erode your faith? This extraordinary guide is Ephesians chapter 6, a divinely inspired strategy session from the very architect of the cosmos, meticulously designed to equip you not just to survive life's storms, but to triumph through them boldly, without fear, and with unwavering victory. Picture the relentless barrage of today's world, the tightening grip of economic pressures, the heartbreaking fragmentation of families, the silent battles of mental and emotional health, and a seemingly endless torrent of distressing news. Do you ever find yourself teetering on the edge of overwhelm, feeling as though you are engaged in skirmishes you can't quite comprehend, let alone conquer? Ephesians 6 speaks with startling clarity directly into this contemporary whirlwind. It's a divine summons to arm yourself, to step into the boundless strength that God Himself provides, and to confront life's myriad challenges, not with a spirit of trepidation, but with a heart fortified by faith. This chapter is far more than an eloquent collection of uplifting phrases. It's a comprehensive spiritual game plan, uniquely tailored for every conflict you might face. From imparting wisdom on how to cultivate harmonious family dynamics to providing the full spiritual armor necessary to repel forces that aim to undermine your confidence, Ephesians 6 empowers you to rise above. It extends an invitation to reframe life's trials, seeing them not as menacing threats, but as powerful opportunities to showcase the magnificent power of God actively working within your life. Let's be candid. How many times have we found ourselves scrolling through headlines or social media feeds, a knot of anxiety tightening in our stomachs, feeling as though the world is spiraling into an uncontrollable abyss? Ephesians 6 gently but firmly reminds us that the most significant battles aren't always the ones we can see. They are often waged in the spiritual realm, by unseen forces operating behind the curtains of our daily lives. But herein lies the glorious news. We are not summoned to this fight alone, nor are we left defenseless. This remarkable chapter unveils the essential truth, the divine strategy, and the impenetrable armor we need to claim decisive victory over every spiritual assault, every creeping moment of doubt, and every challenging season of struggle. If these words strike a chord deep within you, don't let this revelation remain a secret. Share this empowering message with someone you know who may be feeling defeated, lost, or uncertain about their next step. Let them discover that God's plan for their life is not one of defeat, but of resounding victory. And if you feel a stirring to delve deeper, to truly internalize these life-altering truths, explore the resources we have carefully crafted, designed to fortify your faith and illuminate the path ahead. Journey with us as we meticulously unpack Ephesians 6, verse by verse, uncovering divine strategies for thriving in your relationships, conquering adversity, and standing unshakably firm in the truth of God's magnificent promises. Together, let us embrace the ultimate battle plan for life, illuminated and explained as never before. The opening verses of Ephesians 6 transport us directly into the intricate world of family dynamics, a subject that resonates with even greater urgency in our often fractured contemporary society. In a cultural landscape frequently marked by generational chasms, where the threads of family connection can feel strained or even severed, Paul's words cut through the noise with piercing, timeless clarity. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Ephesians 6:1. This is not some dusty, outdated relic from a bygone era, but a divine directive deeply embedded in God's unchanging order, underscoring obedience and honor as the very bedrock of a flourishing family and a vibrant faith. Picture a child in today's world, smartphone in hand, bombarded by a relentless stream of external influences, all competing fiercely with the guidance offered by their parents. To choose obedience in such an environment, where authority is routinely questioned and rebellion often celebrated, requires a profound humility and a deep-seated trust, qualities that beautifully mirror the unwavering trust we are called to place in God Himself. Paul doesn't merely suggest obedience, he inextricably links it to one of the 10 Commandments. Honor your father and mother, and powerfully reminds us that this is the first commandment with a promise, Exodus 20:12, Ephesians 6:2. And what is this promise? A life characterized by well-being and longevity, a divine blessing that powerfully underscores the sacred importance of honoring authority. But this obedience is far more than mere compliance. It is a profound act of love and respect. It is about consciously valuing the wisdom and authority God has sovereignly placed within our lives. When children honor their parents, they engage in a beautiful act of worship, reflecting God's perfect order in creation. This isn't a call for blind submission or a begrudging sense of duty. Instead, it's about aligning our hearts with God's divine design, recognizing that our earthly relationships are intended to be mirrors reflecting our intimate relationship with Him. Paul's teaching boldly challenges both ancient and contemporary societal norms. In the ancient world, children were often viewed primarily as extensions of their family's lineage and legacy, with obedience demanded rather than lovingly nurtured. But Paul reframes this crucial relationship, anchoring it firmly in God's divine order. To obey in the Lord signifies that our family relationships are not ends in themselves, but rather sacred avenues through which we honor God. It's about living in a manner that authentically reflects His character, His compassion, His humility, and His boundless grace. The command to honor parents transcends age for young children. It might manifest as listening attentively, respecting established boundaries, or diligently following household rules. For adult children, it could involve tenderly caring for aging parents, expressing heartfelt gratitude, or diligently preserving their dignity. Honoring isn't confined to easy, uncomplicated relationships. It challenges us to rise above simmering resentment, generously offering forgiveness and grace. Even within the most complex and challenging family dynamics, consider those who grapple with the pain of broken family relationships, parents who may have failed, wounded, or deeply disappointed them. Paul's words do not ignore these harsh realities, but instead call us to approach them with profound humility, remembering that honor isn't about excusing past wrongs, but about actively reflecting God's forgiveness in our own lives. In a world where division and hurt often cast long shadows over families, choosing obedience and honor becomes a radical countercultural act of faith. The blessings intricately tied to this command ripple outward, touching not only individual lives but also entire communities. That it may go well with you, and that you may live long on the earth points not merely to personal well-being, but to the broader stability and harmony of society. Families built upon a foundation of respect and honor serve as unwavering pillars of strength in a world desperately yearning for restoration and healing. In today's landscape, where parental authority is often diminished and generational divides seem to grow ever wider, these verses resonate as a clarion call to re-examine our priorities. Reflect honestly on your own relationships. Are there conversations left unsaid, apologies left unspoken, or expressions of gratitude left unexpressed? Paul's teaching serves as a poignant reminder that how we honor those closest to us profoundly echoes our relationship with God. How can we better reflect God's divine design in our relationships? Perhaps it's through a simple phone call to express gratitude, a heartfelt prayer for reconciliation, or a quiet moment of reflection on how God calls us to honor Him by honoring others. Paul's words are not just about family, they are ultimately about the gospel. As children honor their parents, so we honor our Heavenly Father, trusting His perfect plan even when it seems difficult or unclear. These verses challenge us to actively cultivate families and relationships that beautifully mirror God's boundless love. In a world so often fractured by conflict, what would it look like to wholeheartedly embrace God's vision for harmony? a harmony deeply rooted in honor and obedience. May these timeless words inspire us not just to survive family life, but to truly thrive in it, actively bringing healing, grace, and God's radiant light into the very spaces we call home. Paul's insightful words in Ephesians 6-4 are a potent summons for fathers, and by extension all caregivers and leaders, to guide with profound intention, delicate balance and unwavering love. They don't just challenge fathers, they challenge every individual in a position of influence. Imagine the scene. A father stands at the threshold of his home, his child visibly wrestling with some inner turmoil, perhaps the intense pressures of school, the intricate complexities of friendships, or the searching questions that inevitably arise about faith in an increasingly challenging world. In this pivotal moment, the father faces a choice. Will he respond with simmering frustration, his words laced with his own exhaustion or impatience? Or will he consciously step into the role Paul so vividly describes, that of a compassionate guide who thoughtfully reflects the care, grace, and discipline of God himself? Paul commences with a crucial caution: "Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger." This is far more than a gentle plea for tenderness. It's a stern warning against the kind of leadership that crushes spirits rather than builds them up, that breeds frustration rather than nurtures growth. Picture a home where discipline is erratic and unpredictable, where corrections are delivered in explosive bursts of anger, or where praise is conspicuously absent and expectations feel impossibly unattainable. Such an environment inevitably plants seeds of resentment, mistrust, and deep-seated insecurity. For a child, it may cultivate not only rebellion against earthly authority, but also a distorted and damaging view of God's own authority. In our modern world, this warning feels more urgent than ever. In an age saturated with social media pressures, relentless academic demands, and a cultural climate that often champions self-centeredness, children desperately need leaders who consistently model patience, unwavering consistency, and abundant grace. Paul's words serve as a powerful reminder that parenting, or any form of leadership, isn't about exerting control, but about fostering holistic growth. It's about intentionally creating an environment where discipline and love work in harmonious synergy, much like the perfect balance God himself demonstrates in his tender care for us. But Paul doesn't merely linger on what not to do. He swiftly pivots to what we must do, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. The word discipline here doesn't primarily mean punishment. It speaks of training, guidance, and preparation. Think of an athlete diligently honing their skills, not because they are being coerced, but because they are being meticulously equipped for something greater. Similarly, instruction is not mere rote teaching. It's about authentically living out the values we seek to impart, modeling godly character through our everyday actions. Consider how this applies to today's multifaceted challenges. A father patiently guiding his teenager through complex moral dilemmas at school might encounter resistance, yet his calm, reassuring presence and consistent values can instill lifelong convictions. A mother thoughtfully explaining the enduring importance of kindness over fleeting popularity vividly shows her child how to reflect God's love in a world that often prioritizes self-interest. A mentor who actively listens to their mentees' struggles without judgment creates a safe, sacred space for honesty and transformative growth. Paul's words also resonate deeply with the poignant parable of the prodigal son, Luke 15:11-32. In this timeless story, the father permits his son to face the painful consequences of his poor choices, yet he remains steadfast and unwavering in his love. When the son returns, broken and repentant, the father's response is not one of rebuke, but of complete restoration. He runs to meet his son, clothes him in honor, and joyfully celebrates his return. This is the very heart of godly leadership, skillfully balancing discipline with grace, correction with compassion. But how can we practically live out this high calling? Paul's instructions provide a clear roadmap. First, be truly present with your children. In a world teeming with constant distractions, your time is one of the greatest and most precious gifts you can offer. Being present isn't just about physical proximity, it's about being emotionally available, actively listening to their struggles, enthusiastically celebrating their victories, and consistently letting them know they are deeply valued. Second, model faith authentically. Your children are keen observers, constantly watching how you live out your faith. Do they see you turning to prayer in moments of difficulty? Do they witness you extending grace to others, even when it's undeserved? Your personal example profoundly shapes how they understand and experience God's love. Third, discipline with purpose. Discipline should always aim to restore and teach, never to punish out of frustration. Clearly explain the reasons behind your corrections, helping them to see how their actions align or misalign with God's enduring values. Fourth, create a safe and open space for questions. Children and teens often wrestle with doubts about faith, morality, and their own identity. Cultivating an environment where they can ask questions without fear of judgment builds trust and strengthens their ability to navigate life's inevitable complexities. And finally, pray for and with your children. Prayer is one of the most potent tools in parenting. Pray fervently for their growth, their protection, and their personal relationship with God. Praying with them also teaches them dependence on God and builds precious spiritual intimacy within the family. Paul's instructions also extend far beyond the immediate family unit. Mentors, teachers, pastors, and spiritual leaders are all called to guide others with the same delicate balance of discipline and grace. The call to lead with integrity, love, and faithfulness transcends biological ties, becoming a foundational principle for all relationships built on trust and mutual growth. Reflect honestly on your own leadership or parenting style. Are there areas where you tend to lead out of frustration rather than love? Are there moments where harshness could be replaced with understanding, or where correction could be softened with encouragement? Paul's words challenge us to see leadership as a direct reflection of God's own parenting, firm yet tender, corrective yet ultimately restorative. Ephesians 6-4 isn't just about raising children, it's about raising disciples. It's a profound call to invest deeply in those we lead, to see their immense potential through God's eyes, and to nurture their faith with unwavering patience and tender care. It's an invitation to reflect the boundless love of a father who never gives up on his children, no matter how far they may stray. And in doing so, we are not just shaping lives for today, we are shaping hearts for eternity. As Paul transitions his focus from the intricacies of family relationships to the dynamics of the workplace, his words carry a timeless relevance, speaking directly to how believers should approach their various roles in daily life. His instruction to obey your earthly masters with respect and fear, and with sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ's. Ephesians 6-5 challenges us to view our work as far more than a mere means to an end. It becomes an act of worship. In a world where headlines are frequently dominated by stories of burnout, job dissatisfaction, and pervasive workplace politics, Paul's wisdom offers a refreshingly transformative perspective. Work performed for Christ transforms even the most mundane tasks into something of eternal significance. Imagine a servant in ancient Ephesus hearing these words. In a society where servitude often meant oppression and invisibility, Paul's instruction radically redefines their reality. It's no longer primarily about pleasing an earthly master, but about serving the ultimate master, Christ himself. This profound reframing shifts work from drudgery to dignity, from mere obligation to a sacred opportunity. And while Paul speaks directly to servants, his words resonate powerfully with anyone navigating the complexities of work today, from those in bustling office towers to individuals at home, managing the demanding responsibilities of caregiving. Paul begins by emphasizing obedience, but not the kind motivated by fear of punishment or a desire for human approval. Instead, he calls for sincerity of heart. He elaborates, serve them not only to win their favor when their eye is on you, but as slaves of Christ, doing the will of God from your heart. Ephesians 6-6. This is a clarion call to unwavering integrity, working with the same dedication and pursuit of excellence whether someone is watching or not. In a culture increasingly driven by performance metrics and the pursuit of public recognition, this internal compass challenges us to ground our efforts in faithfulness rather than mere visibility. Picture this in today's context. A dedicated nurse works an extra shift not for the accolades or recognition, but because they see their role as a direct extension of God's compassionate care. A passionate teacher stays late to help a struggling student, finding deep purpose in nurturing untapped potential. A devoted parent tirelessly manages the beautiful chaos of a household, pouring boundless love into their family, even when their efforts go largely unnoticed. Paul's words remind us that every action, no matter how small or unseen, holds profound eternal significance when done for Christ. Paul takes this even further, urging believers to serve wholeheartedly as if you were serving the Lord, not people. Ephesians 6-7. This radically shifts the focus from human expectations to divine purpose. It frees us from the crushing weight of constantly seeking validation from bosses, colleagues, or clients, redirecting our efforts toward pleasing the one who sees and values every intricate detail. Imagine the immense freedom this brings when success isn't solely tied to paychecks or accolades, but to faithfulness and obedience. This perspective also challenges our attitudes. Are we serving with genuine joy, even when tasks feel thankless or repetitive? Are we diligent and thorough, even when no one seems to acknowledge our hard work? Paul's words call us to examine not just what we do, but how and why we do it. It's about intentionally aligning our hearts with God's purposes, ensuring that our work authentically reflects His character. But Paul's teaching isn't only for workers, it's for anyone in a position of influence. Employers, leaders, and mentors are called to lead with the same sincerity and integrity. In verse 9, Paul instructs masters to treat their servants well, recognizing their shared accountability to God. It's a powerful reminder that leadership is not about wielding power, but about responsible stewardship, reflecting God's justice and mercy. Consider how these principles apply in today's workplaces, where trust and respect are often fragile commodities. What if leaders saw their teams not as resources to be managed, but as people to be served and uplifted? What if employees approached their roles not as mere obligations, but as precious opportunities to glorify God? The ripple effects of such a transformative mindset could reshape not only individual workplaces, but entire industries. Paul's concluding reminder in verse 8 is a profound encouragement. Because you know that the Lord will reward each one for whatever good they do, whether they are slave or free. This promise completely reframes how we view success. Earthly rewards, promotions, raises, or accolades are fleeting, but God's recognition is eternal. Every act of faithfulness, no matter how small or unnoticed by the world, is seen and deeply valued by Him. So how can we apply this in our daily lives? Begin each workday with prayer, intentionally inviting God to guide your actions and attitudes. Strive for excellence, not for human approval, but as a genuine reflection of God's glory. Recognize the profound impact of your work on others, approaching each interaction with humility and love. And most importantly, anchor your efforts in the unwavering knowledge that you are ultimately serving Christ. Ephesians 6-5-8 challenges us to see work not as a burden, but as a blessing, a precious chance to reflect God's grace in a world desperately yearning for hope. Whether you are navigating a corporate career, managing a home, or volunteering in your community, your work matters deeply to God. Let it be an act of worship, a testament of faith, and a beautiful reflection of His boundless love. In a culture obsessed with outcomes, Paul's words invite us to focus on the process, trusting that God sees, values, and rewards every act of faithful service. As Paul pivots from addressing servants to masters in Ephesians 6-9, his words strike with the force of a thunderclap, particularly in a culture where authority was often wielded with fear and domination. Masters, do the same to them, and stop your threatening, knowing that He who is both their master and yours is in heaven, and that there is no partiality with Him. In a world that highly prized hierarchy and control, Paul's message radically flips the script. Authority, he teaches, is not about raw power but about responsible stewardship, and leadership must inherently mirror the justice, mercy, and humility of God Himself. Imagine the modern-day workplace, where managers and CEOs often hold immense influence over their teams. Now consider Paul's direct call not to exploit that power, but to actively use it to uplift and empower others. This isn't just some lofty biblical ideal. It's a transformative principle that challenges the very heart of how leadership is exercised today. In an era marked by phenomena like quiet quitting, widespread burnout, and persistent calls for workplace reform, Paul's words offer a compelling vision of leadership, one deeply rooted in respect, genuine collaboration, and mutual dignity. Paul's phrase, "Do the same to them," is nothing short of revolutionary. Just as servants are called to work as if serving Christ, leaders are unequivocally called to lead as if they are directly accountable to Christ. This principle of reciprocity shatters the pervasive us versus them dynamic that so often poisons workplace environments. Leadership, Paul insists, is not about issuing commands from an elevated position, but about walking alongside those you lead, sharing in their struggles and celebrating their successes. Imagine a CEO who actively listens to their employees, genuinely seeks to understand their challenges, and diligently fosters an environment of trust and empowerment. That is precisely Paul's vision, leadership that intrinsically values people over profits, dignity over dominance. "Stop your threatening," Paul writes, cutting directly to the core of fear-based leadership. In his time, threats were the common currency of control, compelling obedience through intimidation. Today, threats might manifest differently, perhaps through harsh emails, unreasonable demands, or a chilling, silent disregard, but their corrosive effect remains the same. They erode trust, foster resentment, and stifle creativity. Paul's challenge is crystal clear: lead with compassion, not coercion, correct with kindness, not cruelty, build bridges, not walls. This is where Paul's eternal perspective profoundly transforms the concept of leadership. He who is both their master and yours is in heaven. Imagine the profound humility this truth inspires. Whether you are the boss or the intern, the parent or the child, the teacher or the student, all are equal before the throne of God. Earthly roles and hierarchies are temporary. It is God's judgment that endures. For the leader, this serves as a sobering reminder that power is not an inherent right, but a sacred responsibility, one that will ultimately be held to divine standards. For those under authority, it offers immense comfort, knowing that earthly hierarchies are secondary to God's impartial justice. In our modern context, this message couldn't be more timely or relevant. Leaders today face immense pressure to deliver results, often at the expense of their team's well-being and mental health. Paul's words call for a radical reimagining of leadership, a fundamental shift from self-centered ambition to Christ-centered service. It's about leading with genuine humility, valuing each person as an image bearer of God, and diligently fostering an environment where trust, respect, and holistic growth can thrive. Consider this: what would it look like for leaders to truly embody this kind of Christ-centered leadership? It might begin each day with prayer, intentionally inviting God into their decisions and humbly asking for the wisdom to lead well. It would involve practicing active listening, genuinely seeking to understand the needs and perspectives of those they lead. It means embracing transparency, fostering trust by consistently aligning their actions with their words. And above all, it requires modeling servant leadership, willingly stepping into the struggles of their team and clearly demonstrating that their worth isn't tied to performance metrics, but to their intrinsic value as beloved children of God. Paul's instructions in Ephesians 6-9 paint a vivid picture of leadership that's not about accumulating power for oneself, but about wisely distributing it for the benefit of all. It's about creating environments where people feel seen, genuinely valued, and fully empowered to grow to their God-given potential. Imagine workplaces where bosses enthusiastically celebrate successes, proactively invest in their team's professional and personal development, and inspire collaboration through authentic humility. Picture families where parents guide with grace and wisdom, consistently encouraging their children to flourish and discover their unique gifts. Envision communities where leaders prioritize fairness, justice, and the common good above all else. This is the transformative power inherent in Paul's words. Leadership, redefined through the lens of the gospel, becomes a beautiful reflection of Christ's own perfect example. It's a profound call to lead not for personal gain or aggrandizement, but for the glory of God and the flourishing of His people. Whether you're leading a multinational company, a bustling household, or simply influencing those around you through your daily interactions, Paul's challenge remains clear and unwavering. Lead with integrity, humility, and a heart deeply rooted in God's justice and boundless love. This is how we authentically reflect His kingdom in a world desperately yearning for hope and genuine renewal. As Paul masterfully transitions into Ephesians 6:1-0-12, the tone becomes charged with an undeniable urgency, as if he's diligently preparing us for a profound reality that many of us fail to fully recognize until we're deeply entrenched in the thick of it. He begins, "Finally, be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power." This is not merely a motivational rallying cry. It's a divine command, deeply rooted in the stark reality of the spiritual battles we face daily. Paul's words serve as an unavoidable wake-up call, pulling back the curtain to reveal that the struggles we perceive in the physical world, the relational conflicts, the emotional turmoil, the societal unrest, are often symptoms of a deeper, unseen conflict. Imagine standing unknowingly on the front lines of a spiritual battlefield. You observe divisions widening among families, overwhelming anxiety gripping individuals, and insidious temptations cleverly disguised as attractive opportunities. Now, imagine hearing Paul's voice rise above the ensuing chaos, powerfully reminding you that the true enemy is not the people around you or even the challenging situations themselves. "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood," he declares with unwavering conviction, "but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." In today's complex world, these ancient words ring truer than ever. Think of the pervasive polarization that dominates social media discourse, the overwhelming stress that permeates many workplaces, or the quiet despair that accompanies endless personal battles. These are not just random, isolated occurrences. They are often tactical moves in a much larger, ongoing spiritual war. Paul's profound insight dramatically shifts our perspective. The co-worker who constantly frustrates us, the family member who chronically misunderstands us, or even our own internal, nagging doubts, they are not the ultimate enemy. The true adversary operates insidiously in the unseen realm, skillfully wielding deception, fear, and division to weaken our resolve and steal our peace. Paul's command to be strong in the Lord echoes powerfully through the ages, drawing strength from the biblical accounts of Scripture's great spiritual warriors. David stood bravely before Goliath, a mere boy facing a formidable giant, yet confidently declaring, "The battle is the Lord's," 1 Samuel 17:47. Joshua led an entire nation into the promised land, fortified by the unwavering assurance that God was with them every step of the way. Paul reminds us that the very same resurrection power that raised Jesus from the dead is readily available to us. Ephesians 1:1, 9-20. This isn't just an abstract concept to believe in. It's a tangible reality to walk in, an inexhaustible source of strength that transcends human comprehension. When Paul describes our spiritual enemy, he does so with striking precision, meticulously peeling back layers to reveal the intricate hierarchy of spiritual opposition, rulers, authorities, powers of this dark world, and spiritual forces of evil. These are not faceless, abstract entities. They are deliberate, highly organized forces strategically aiming to derail God's divine plan and discourage His beloved people. Consider the deceptive narratives we encounter daily. Subtle whisper, "That success defines our worth. that we must compromise our deeply held values to belong, or that hope is futile in the face of overwhelming chaos. These insidious lies are not merely societal trends, they are strategic assaults on our core identity in Christ. How do we effectively respond to such a cunning and relentless enemy? Paul's answer is unequivocal preparation. Just as a soldier would never foolishly step onto a battlefield unarmed, we too must diligently equip ourselves with the spiritual tools God Himself provides. Put on the full armor of God, Paul urges, emphatically signaling the critical importance of intentionality. This is not a casual, half-hearted endeavor. It's a daily discipline, a steadfast commitment to fortify ourselves through diligent engagement with Scripture, fervent prayer, and unwavering reliance on the Holy Spirit. Think of the specific battles you're facing right now. Maybe it's the subtle pressure to conform in a work,